It wouldn't be an episode of I Wonder without Jorge starting with his coffee cup in frame, which one day we'll need to have a sponsor on. So
Mm,
maybe today it could be sponsored by Apple Care, as
that's right.
we've had some fun just getting on the air. Um, anyway,
It matters. This sounds much better than the other microphone for whatever reason. But yes,
no
Apple Care.
question. Yes. Um, Thanks to everybody for being here. It's JayRy and Jorge. And this is our series called I Wonder. We talk about things about plant medicine, the world, life, philosophy, all sorts of great things. And um, I wanted to start today. So I have recently, so there's a lot of turmoil with people and like the reaction to the election. And I don't want to talk about the election. But what I found very interesting is that my circle that is more connected to plant um, have had zero political posts, zero
Mm,
emotional reactions, positive or negative, or any posts or things of, yeah, there, yeah, like nothing, we won, and nothing, oh my God, this is the end of the world. So
mm.
it made me think about having this conversation with you because it's been my experience that there are conversations, which is the purpose of this channel, right? Well, not the purpose of the channel, but the purpose of the series is that there's conversations that I can have with my plant community, and there's conversations that I can't. Like, do you I wonder if you have this similar experience where it's a limited group that can understand some of the things that you're thinking or feeling sometimes.
Yes, I wouldn't categorize it as plant people or plant medicine people can talk about things that others can't, because some plant medicine people that I've met are very dogmatic as well, in different ways. But when it comes to politics, they seem like detached, or like have escaped this reality, basically. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I think that they're not radicalized politically speaking. So yes, they are able to at least speak a little bit about this or that. They have sometimes really interesting ideas about things.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they're not like one way or one. They're not on polar opposites. They're not polarized like the political spectrum looks like right now.
I mean, maybe politics was a poor example because it's just such a beast on its own, right? That,
Hmm.
um, but for example, like um, today, like I hadn't posted in a little while about La Fortuna or Royale 33, like the project that I'm working on. And I just felt like posting like I posted a little video of the volcano today, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day in Costa Rica, which is where I live. Um, and I posted that, and interestingly, like that, like prompted like one of my friends through ayahuasca, through plant, to reach out and catch up. And what we talked about was like, again, like our aspirations and what we talked about wanting to do, when we were in ceremony together and catching up just in like just a, I don't know. I feel like there's a joy of plant experience that binds people to me, and I
Mm.
love having conversations at times with those folks because we don't get into any of the clutter. It's
Right.
just true like joy and I don't know. To me, like bigger picture of like
Yes.
what's really going to move our hearts like in the next years. Like what are we doing to um, I don't know, be better people, create something else. Whatever the thing is that some people
Yeah.
take away from Aya.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I think that people, there's the default reality where like everything is political and everything is power and everything is agendas, and then there's like, the sun is shining
Yeah,
and
right.
just go out for a walk. And what are we doing on a
Which
Sunday?
is which is exceptionally valid today because today's the first day we've had like hours of sunshine in Costa Rica, or at least where
Oh
I am.
yeah, it's been raining a lot or what?
It's been raining like nonstop for basically since the last episode, basically 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow. I
It's beautiful.
remember
It's been a bit much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that when I lived in Costa Rica, every time I would come, when would come back home from school, rain would start at 3 p.m., like almost like clockwork,
Yes.
and everything was gray
Right.
for half the
Just,
year.
just when it was time to play.
Just when it was time to play, it was completely gray. That's right.
That's right. But you grew up really privileged, so then you went to your indoor soccer facility and with your private trainer, and then you just had fun that way, right?
No fun, no private trainer, no indoor facility. But yes, I did go to a nice school for sure.
Oh, I
The
can imagine.
volleyball. It was volleyball, I should say. Yeah.
You were into volleyball,
Hmm.
counter culture,
Well,
especially.
it was where all of my classmates were all there, and it was really like the cute girls were playing volleyball, and I still have a soft spot for
It's good.
volleyball girls. It's just
It's a good move.
yeah. I mean, you were into hockey. You were still like hockey into college, right?
Well, I wasn't into hockey girls, but like
I
um,
didn't even know. I didn't even think
what
about a
was
hockey
what
girl
was
team.
the word? Um, there was God, I can't remember the word now. But there was a word for like women that were like hockey fans. It was a bit rude, but it was uh, like fan puckers or something. I can't
Fan
remember.
puckers? That's hilarious.
Just something of like the girls that would hang around because they wanted to land a hockey guy.
Pucker fans.
Something there's it's cleaner, not cleaner like verbally, but it flowed better. I'll find it by next time, but
Okay,
it,
Chat GPT.
it doesn't matter. But you, this is where when we get to Joe Rogan stuff, we tack on the side that looks it up and just whisper
Right, right.
here what the answer is, but who cares? Um, So the thing about this morning, right? Like when I got that message from my friend, and shout out to Halima, like it really like made my day. Just hearing her voice um, and just like the desire to catch up and talk about our plans, and she's very involved with like alternative early education um and but again, like it's just I feel like it's just so different of like the messaging and the connection with people that I have gone through ceremony with. And again,
Yeah.
it's no judgment. I just do feel like the conversations I can have with you, or I can have with Halima, or others as well. There's just things that just won't compute with the majority of people that I know that have not been, in ceremony, and just don't. It's almost like it's like, I mean, and it's described this way sometimes, but it's described as, like the medicine breaks something in you, right?
Yeah.
So I
It
feel like,
breaks the certainty. I think that's what it is. To me, at least, it broke the certainty. So truth still exists, but it's now you know that there is no certainty. And when you know that there is no certainty, like I became a vegan for 5 years. I mean, and when I was a vegan, I was like a hardcore vegan. I was like, I'm gonna be a vegan, and I'm gonna make movies now about vegans and about veganism and about plants and about and I'm not gonna work for any company that does any leather and anything like this. And I was very like my life completely changed.
was that before Aya
No,
or
that was because of Aya.
was it? Okay.
right. And then like when I realized that that was also just another dogma, I another certainty.
Right.
Then I landed when I found philosophy. I was able to be like, okay, well then. But what it did is like does break the it changes your mind in a way that like into to knowing that all of your beliefs can be wrong at the most fundamental level. Like you're kind of like get unplugged from the matrix, and that wake up is enough to be like, okay, wait, hold on. If I was wrong up then, I can still be wrong now, and therefore all the people that are wrong that I see as having misguided perceptions about reality, they can also change their mind that they're not the enemy, you know, and there's still a very beautiful day outside, and I can still hang out with conservatives right now or, very leftists. I mean, that doesn't really matter to me anymore. Like, because I know that we all believe different things, and at the end of the day, we all are having an experience in this earth, and it's more important to focus on the experience than in the opinions.
Oh, if ever I wanted to put a bumper sticker on my bumper stickerless car right now, that would be it right there. Let's have an experience instead of an opinion. Oh,
Yeah.
you are such a fucking genius. That was really good. Um,
Thank you. You bring it out of me. That's why I liked, by the way, our last conversation. I really liked because I never, you know, one of the things about having
last episode.
our last episode, yeah, like where I told you about, which I haven't seen yet, but like I was able to
Yeah,
articulate a bunch of my experiences to you, huh?
we'll get to how you haven't watched the last episode yet. But
Oh
go ahead.
yeah. Well, because you've been sending it to me, but I didn't know I had to be subscribed to your channel to see that
Jorge the Silver.
my episode was finally up.
Let me get the engraved invitation for you to watch your own episode. Sorry, I got lost in your
Well, the last two you've sent, so
the
I was,
massive appearances that you've been doing everywhere.
yeah, I mean, I took time. I'll take time to watch my own episode that I did with you.
How giving of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyways, but questioning each other's beliefs is very fun. And you were also at that. Before we went live, you were telling me that how you never get.
What happens before we go live for these episodes, right? And we're not live, but when we start, like when we actually press record, Jorge
Okay.
has this ritual, totally the Costa Rican in him, because he has this ritual where he says a time, and then when it's time to start, like he's not anywhere near ready to start. He just starts like saying good morning and making his coffee, and then 40 minutes later, we're trying to figure out what's going on with the microphone. So it's very Costa Rican of you. What
It's true.
happens in the pre-show, and then you want to talk so much, which is wonderful because I love you and I love talking with my friend. But yet I'm like, this is the episode. What are we doing? We don't need all this coffee talk to start. Like, let's get going.
This is true. I apologize
The
for being
producer,
late.
director, and me, thumbs up.
Right, but I didn't connect the dot where like you were like, oh, nobody, because I'm the boss and you've been a producer for so many years and the producer of one of the biggest shows in hip hop, nobody gets to take digs at you, and I never
Well,
thought about that.
well, it's a slight misquote. The
Okay.
characterization's pretty true. Um, but because like I have a huge responsibility, like the buck stops with me
Yeah.
of like 92% of what goes on with the big boy brand, right? So that means that I make the decisions primarily. It's very collaborative, but the point is that the buck stops with me and I make the decisions and I make most of the final decisions, along, with Big, who's my business partner. But when you said that you enjoy like our rapport on these episodes, and like we can like, dig at each other a little bit, again with love and respect, but it's I'm like, yeah, it's unusual for me because like that's not like my daily interaction with people. I mean, I work a lot of hours a day. So I'm primarily around my work staff, and my work staff is not like poking me in, I mean, we of course it's fun and we joke and whatever. I mean, I don't know. Let's get them on the episode and hear what
Yeah.
their perspective is, of course.
Let's all roast Jason.
Fucking battle axe JayRy, um, um, but that's what comes with like the major responsibility. So therefore, when we're here, like this is why like this outlet of these episodes and things like that are also important, because there's much more to me as a human being than it is to just directing
Yeah.
business, so
Yeah, well, I'm happy to take digs at you
I know you are.
anytime you want.
You can get all your digs in during your coffee 40-minute warm-up.
By the way, I noticed that there's this, a picture missing in your background. Like there's something fell, right? There was I can't remember.
No,
I'm just trying to think about which one it was. Huh?
I don't think with the way the cut goes, I don't think that the audience is seeing the missing picture, but the sun comes in my window here, and that particular picture, it glares. And so it's kind of annoying to see that one. These others don't glare, so that's why I kept them in, and I tried to like reframe myself. Because like right now, like the center shot is showing Chris Cornell, Stone Temple Pilots album poster, the U2 show in Vegas, and I took down the Boingo Boingo album cover.
That's what it was. I was trying to remember which one it was.
And you, on the other hand, look like a Playboy bunny from the 1970s with your white ears coming out of your head, which is...
That's right. Did I tell you that this is a one that I did in Costa Rica? Actually, this painting I did actually both. You don't see the other one probably, but this one, it's also a painting that I did. This is the painting of my first kiss with a woman that was a flamenco dancer and for whom I learned to play flamenco so I could go touring the world as her flamenco guitarist. This is with the motivations.
I wonder how many years it would take until I got that story out of me. Look at that. Look at that.
It's only right there.
Right. We were talking earlier about again your bumper sticker of saying let's have an experience, and as opposed to an opinion. Like, what I mean, I'm really curious for you. Like, we talked about in great detail what your first like ayahuasca experience was, but I wonder if your first experience differs from what you might characterize as your most meaningful experience.
Wow. I think, interesting, because this is kind of like how we ended the last episode. I think the most meaningful one was when I have the plant community people tell me like that, how is it that I don't believe in God, that I should ask ayahuasca about God. And so I was like, okay, I'll ask ayahuasca.
Let's back up a little bit. Now, who's saying this, and what's the context of?
Yeah, so like I was in Los Angeles after I went to Peru. I did ayahuasca. I did 6 sessions of ayahuasca in Peru. I came back. I found a shaman here, and my idea was to go like an oil checkup for the car, like every so often, just to like get the tune-up, basically. And I found a bunch of people here, really cool plant community. But they were interested in the fact that I didn't believe in God, that I would go do ayahuasca, but somehow it was incompatible, the two thoughts, that I could do plant and also not believe in a higher power that is telling me what to do or something like this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I mean, to me, it's not a big deal. Like, to me, it's just the way it is. They were like very adamant about that I'm not asking the right questions, or I'm not really open to it or whatever. So I was like, okay, listen, in this night, because this was like the morning after, I would go on a Friday night and then, sleep over there. And then the next morning have breakfast or whatever. And then the second night on Saturday, no? And I was like, okay, I'll ask on Saturday, and I'll be open, and I'll be, you know, absolutely receptive to the idea that there might be a higher power. Uh-huh.
Now, did you choose to do that because of the pressure, or did you really feel that, like, oh wait, maybe I am missing something? Like, did you buy into it, or like, how did you feel in that moment?
You know, when it's enough people and enough people that you trust, then you might. I was open. I was like, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've been wrong about many things before. Why not this too?
Sure.
So I I went to with an open mind, and I really surrendered, and I wanted to really ask the question, and I was ready to like go, and if so, like, you know, show me, like I'm completely in service here, like if I'm the vessel and there is this higher power and I'm supposed to do something, you know, commanded by God or something like this, then I am absolutely here for it. Like my mind is, my heart is open, everything.
Sure.
And I asked a question, and I remember the vision. It was like this. I remember that I was in the middle of a cosmos in my hallucination, and I got very scared. I was like, oh my god, I was like grabbing onto, like, you know, my seat basically, like thinking that I was just never gonna return.
Oh wow.
And in the middle of it, there was this like giant, like very funny, like bearded knight with a helmet and with a sword, kind of like a Nordic knight. I don't know why it was a Nordic knight. It reminded me of a friend of mine. And I asked this guy, I was like, is there a god? Are you God? Is,
Mhm.
you know, I asked the question, is there a God? And there was like there was just silence. And then the vision of like protector just turned into this like really dark, after like what it seemed like an eternity, like turning really dark. And I started puking and puking and puking and puking.
Okay.
And in the middle of, and like looking down at at all my vomit, basically, all this like, I realized it, and it was like an incredible lesson, because it was like, God is not outside. God is not, there's nothing out there. It's all in you, in me. It's all in me. Like the answer is in each one of us. That you could argue that, you know, we are all God, and the pantheistic vision of you know, a conception of God, that we're all like like how Leibniz articulated it. But anyways, the answer was very clear, and there's nothing outside. There's nothing outside of me. And so the next day I told this to my friends at the ayahuasca circle, and they were like, you need to do this. Is always, this is what annoys me sometimes about people, that there is like, no matter how much evidence you show them, and even if it's from personal experience, right? Anyways, I say to them like, no, that I asked the question, and I, you know, and I was very honest and
Okay.
get what.
Don't even try.
Huh?
I know what you're doing. Don't even try. Continue.
Well, no, but this is what it is, right? So like, I tell everybody like, no, I asked the question, I did what you told me. I asked the question to the plant, and the
Yeah.
plant said no. And then they're like, oh, well, you didn't ask the right question, or you didn't ask enough. You need to do 5-MeO DMT. This is what you need, and then you'll see God.
Okay.
And I'm like,
I
okay,
already have
and
6 questions, and I'm going to forget them. Can I interject?
yeah, yeah, of course,
Okay. So, uh, so when you said you were looking at your vomit,
yeah.
right? Did you at any point during any ceremony, did you ever receive that instruction which said to look at your vomit and ask what it is? Did you ever receive that instruction?
Not in that moment, but yes, definitely heard, or like, you know, investigated in my mind, like, what did I just puke, right? Something like this.
That's definitely something that I learned early on as well. In the,
To like look at your puke.
well, I mean, it's in line with asking, asking your connection in that moment, the
Yeah.
plant, or Aya, God, whatever it is you believe that you might be connected to, if the plant takes you there. Um, ask what came out of you, because
Yeah.
it could be very significant of
Yeah.
like
So
what,
how?
what are you purging. And so that's why I was just curious when you said that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, the same group that maybe told you to look at it. But go ahead.
No, it wasn't the people, but no, that has definitely like I've learned very much of like it's always what did just come out like a monster or something like a demon, a fear, something a fear really. And I don't believe in monsters or demons, but like a fear. What is it that like my body wanted to get out
Sure.
of me? And
Right.
so in your case, what was it like the most meaningful? Because you've asked me, that was my most meaningful one, and the puke was a fear of not standing in what I believe, which is that there is no God, like being afraid of saying I don't believe in God, even though I've done all this so-called spiritual work. So
Yes.
that was to me the most meaningful. So that was, I
Wait,
don't
no,
know.
no, no. I'm not even close to done.
Oh,
I
okay.
so many questions. So, um, just like again, honest reaction. Like that group, like when I'm hearing you describe, like bugs me
Oh yeah.
because like I believe that um, uh, I believe that Aya is very sacred and very special. I don't believe that people should be brought to the medicine. I believe that the medicine should bring you. And again, this is just my belief system through my experiences. It doesn't mean that it's right, but I'm just like this is where I come from. And like I every time that I've done Aya, I've been in a, you know, hand chosen scenario where I knew and felt like supported. Now, granted, not all of them were exactly equal or, you know, anything of that nature, but at no point when I shared with the group, which is also like, you know, something very significant, like post ceremony to like have that vulnerability and share. And at no point did I ever feel that I was like questioned or somebody told me I'm not doing it right. That
Mm,
really bothered me in your story.
yeah.
And that's one of the things I think that's hard too, is that like, you know, like who is representing the medicine, who is representing the ceremony, who is representing like, you know, your experience, because it all matters, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like moments like that can and do, you know, like give ceremony a bad name. Like look at like it's in the moment you said, okay, uh, let me ask, because you know perhaps these people know better than me, right? Perhaps
Yeah.
that was where you were at. But now today, like, does your opinion change, or would you respond to them differently if like insinuating that your experience was wrong?
Um, I would respond just like in the same way. Like I'm always open to re-examine beliefs. Like, you know, and by the way, this was not the shaman that told me. Like the shaman didn't question me, right? It was just the people that
Thank
I was
goodness.
with.
Thank goodness
But
for
I
that.
did have huh?
Thank goodness for that.
Oh
They
yeah,
did.
yeah. No, the
They
shaman
were
was no. The shaman was is a good shaman for sure.
good.
Like this, it's a good in integrity person. Um, but I do have a friend that has turned into a shaman. That
Okay.
when I told him, he was like, "Oh yeah, you need to do a diet. You need to do more plant medicine. Oh, this is like obviously you're wrong, and obviously that's the implication is that obviously I need more medicine because obviously I don't know, I cannot be right? Like, but he didn't even consider that maybe he was wrong, right?
And
And
this is
so
coming from a different person from the group you were
this
just
is a
describing.
different person. This is a
Oh,
different person.
goodness sake.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to elaborate slightly, like when I've done medicine, I didn't have anybody try to explain my experience away or tell me how to um, ask the question better. I have
Mm.
been, so the thing like with rhythmia, for example, right, where I've done a lot of nights, well, like 8 nights. Um, there is a really like significant like classroom setting during the day to which people talk about these things, but it's always very supportive. There have been moments I recall where people spoke about nothing happened for me, or whatever it may be. Bless you.
Thank you.
Or I was scared, or this, or or I was too resistant, or I don't any one of those kind of things. But it was never meant with like you're not doing it right, or it was really positive and like
Yeah.
loving, which I feel is in line with what the medicine is.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to sound like a shill for arrhythmia every week, but it's been a significant part of like my experience.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel that none of like what you just described, has happened in anywhere that I experienced Aya. Like that would, I don't know, like it would
Well,
probably
I
turn.
mean, this is friends of like in the circle, right? Like in confidence after the experiences, right? So it's not the shaman, it's not the authorities, basically. It's not the people who are running, and it's more like, what do you mean you don't believe in God? What? Like because they had a powerful experience that they associate
Sure.
with a supreme being and so on, and so it does not compute with their experience, and
But what
it's
does that
fine.
question even mean, though? Too, like believe. I mean, what is the definition of God, right? I mean, like,
We can
I
talk about it, yeah.
I can say I don't believe in God when it comes to the idea of, this one all powerful person that was described in the Bible. I don't believe that set
Mm-hmm.
of stories. Um, uh, I don't dismiss people that hold on to that and it makes them happy and it makes their lives feel better or more meaningful or whatever it may be. Believe away. That's just not what I see. Um, you know, do I believe that, you know, Earth and the cosmos and everything, doesn't have any type of guidance to it? I don't believe that either. So I think that, I think
What do you
that
mean
they're
by guidance?
meaning that, on the first day, God created whatever. And it's like God created light and then he created earth and then he created man. Like, so there's like a story is like how all these things that we experience came into being, right? That's in
Mm-hmm.
like, right. So I'm saying I'm not the complete opposite of that to say that every single thing that's happening in this moment is completely random and nothing ever there was no, I mean, I believe there is some type of um, power, connection, universe. I believe there is something else going on.
But
Um,
why does it have to be random?
it doesn't have to be random. I was just giving an example of like an extreme opposite,
I
saying that
see.
I'm not saying don't believe in God, I'm all the way over here, right? I'm saying that even through my experiences in plant, I do believe that I do absolutely believe in the unexplained and spirituality and the creation of the universe and things that I've been connected to through plant um, absolutely lead me to feel that there is something going on, but I don't believe it's a singular God that followed the story of the Bible. No, I don't.
But
But that's why
okay.
it's sort of like, what's your definition of God? Because God could be a feeling. God could be a lot of different things, but I think when you just say God, like, perhaps people think of this man hovering over us in the clouds. And that's
But
like,
so okay, so if you don't believe in a personal God that tells you that created the world in 7 days and so on, not the Abrahamic version of it, but you believe it seems like in a feeling that God is a feeling and there's a connection to this feeling that guides us, that there's not all random. So there is like some sense of intuition that you're following, that if you listen to it properly, like it will be the right intuition. Is that kind of the idea?
I wouldn't call it God though. I,
You wouldn't call it,
because
okay.
because when I'm connected through Aya, it feels like a woman and it feels like it's a motherly presence that is helping guide me through my thoughts and explaining things
Mm.
in the universe that I couldn't possibly experience in my day to day on Earth. So that feels like something bigger. Um,
Mm.
But again, I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call it God. Um, but again, I part of the gift I think of this existence is that I am fully happy to surrender and admit that I do not know the answers. I'm much more suspicious of people who do have all the answers.
Well, not all the answers, but if well, yeah, sure, like God can be in your context feminine or masculine, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that you believe in the unexplained. You said so. You surrender to the unexplained, and you let the plant, when you're under the effect, to explain things that otherwise, while sober, you wouldn't be able to understand. That right? Is that
Well,
kind of?
yes, and I feel though post plant, I feel that it is definitely adjusts my, day to day sensibilities. Like it's easier for me to let go of things that don't quite make sense. It's perhaps not mine to understand.
Mm,
And so I feel like that I feel like there's much more of a freedom that I have um gleaned, through use of and sometimes also mushrooms. Um, I feel like there's just like a great freedom and a calm. But again, I wouldn't like attribute it to like, religion or, uh, traditional ideas of God and people going to church and things like that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not assuming that you believe in God in any religious way. I'm just really want to understand what is it that you understand as. Do you believe in that this force created us? Like, do you believe in a creator that we were willed into existence?
I don't have an answer for that. Um, well, actually, I do have an answer for that. Here's another, right? Whether there's any reality to it or not, I did envision uh, under ceremony one time that I myself was not here or human. I was a little asteroid floating above the earth, a little undescript little rock. And I'm watching myself on earth, the alleged me, this skin and bones and mouth right now. I was watching me from outer space, which furthered the idea that this existence is temporary and is not me. It's almost like my soul was in this rock asteroid ish figure, just watching like what's going on, knowing that it was impermanent and um, not as not as uh, significant as perhaps day-to-day life on Earth. There wasn't as much importance to put on things
Hmm.
because I was being shown that it's like it was almost like the idea that it was like a simulator. And again, I'm not at all going that far to say that absolutely was the truth, but perhaps it was a context just for me to say like zoom out, like just look at the billions of little people running around doing this, stressing out over this and that. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that
The
experience
overview effect.
interpreted. And note that at no point did I ever feel the suggestion that it was saying that I am a god or in control or anything like that. Like absolutely
Hmm.
not. I was just an observer, like everybody else, perhaps.
Yeah, like
So
the overview effect. Do you know about the overview effect from the astronauts?
no,
It's
tell me.
exactly what you're describing. So when astronauts return from Earth, they have this, not all of them, I guess, but there's this astronaut in particular. I can't remember which of the astronauts he is, but he said that from above, like you could see, like, I don't know, Israel and Palestine, or every zone that is in conflict, and be like, why are we fighting? That why this is so dumb, and like
No.
look at the beautiful Earth. And so they get like, and then when they come back, they have this, they call it the overview effect, and it's exactly what you're describing, that nothing really matters that much. Like there's no reason to fight.
Right.
We can just come to an agreement, without, if we can just look at it from a more pulled away perspective and not so caught up in our reactivity.
Right. And
So
again,
you get it with, I agree that this is something that plant can give people, is this overview effect, for sure.
It's a huge reason why I'm a proponent of it, because I just feel that like the whole world could use a little more calm, a little more understanding.
Yes.
And how about even just from like the very basic start of the whole planet could use a little downtime.
Yeah.
Like plant and the experience of Aya, again, when done in the right context and successful, right, forces you to stop whatever it is you're doing, texting, chasing something or someone, or right, whatever the things are, right? It forces everybody to just stop. And again, asterisk when done successfully, but
It's a forced meditation, a chemically induced meditation.
Yes. And I think everybody would benefit from some more of that. So yeah, I mean, again, it's all these little micro lessons that have happened like over the years. Like I feel have definitely improved my outlook and my calm. I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm always in that space, but I'm definitely more in that space than I used to be.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot with, in your case, it's a lot with attaching emotion to the lack of control of certain situations. So like that you will get frustrated when you can't control something or the outcome of something or a situation, anything that has to do with control. And when you do relax or step back, whether it's with Aya or through the lessons that you've been learning through Aya, you're able to not get so emotional about the things that you cannot control and accept the unexplicable and let it be, basically, like the song, and relax and basically have a better experience through the things that you cannot control. Is that accurate?
I think that's a fantastic synopsis. That's very good. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
How does that hit you? How does any of what I just described hit you?
No, I mean, I agree. I like to think that, I like to try to explain things with, logic and science now, because what you are describing perfectly aligns with my worldview. It still doesn't have to do anything with a controlling force or something that guides. When meditation, like even prayer, has been shown, not because prayer itself, like praying to something, keeps you calm, but like it just puts people into a meditative state, which detaches your prefrontal cortex from the reactivity part of your brain, who's like trying to just like control and just like that's one certainty, and when it has no certainty, it feels attacked, because it's a survival instinct. And so when we calm down, you realize you have food, you have water, you have a place to sleep. Most of us do, at least in the Western world. You realize that this could be far, far different. And there are people living and experiencing vastly different lives and are completely happy and fine. And we're worrying here because, an election or whatever, And it's
The iPhone 16 Pro Max yet. My life is ruined.
correct, exactly. And so I agree with you. I still don't see where God or the guidance fits into your into your outlook. If it's, or what is this force or this universe, this mother explainer, grandmother explainer, that teaches you how to let go, like, because it seems like if it explains to you, that it's kind of like a rational, is it a rational, I mean, you said it was a feeling, but it also, you say that it explains, perhaps it's not explains in language, but it explains in a surrender, it
That's
like
not,
teaches you.
well, clarity. If I misspoke, what I meant to say about is that God could be a feeling.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a singular person, of such form. It could be a feeling. Um, uh, could be. I'm not going to the bank on that one.
Mm.
Uh, I can only talk about like what my experience was, and I grew up, in the church, and I was an altar boy, not molested,
I forgot
and
about this.
and like I'm very familiar with the stories, and I grew up with it. And as I got older, I'm like, I don't know about all that. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with, um, you know, my single mother raising me, wanting to like have some type of like um, structure, and or help to, I don't know, perhaps try to, keep me right from wrong or things like that. Like, I mean, there are good lessons, that came from my upbringing, in church. But, you know, now, I mean, I see things differently. And again, I still am not going to shit talk, people that do want to do that, because it can be very valuable, because our own minds and our own feelings are very powerful for how our day goes.
Mm.
Stories and the belief systems and the things that we have in our mind, in our experience, absolutely uh, affects like how you're going to be. So if that, just as you stated, prayer can be um, a meditative moment for somebody to stop the outside stress and noise and whatever, and connect to speak to God, or whatever that experience might be, for people to do that on a regular basis. um I mean, if that helps you get through your day, who am I to say, like, great, like, great for you. um that's just not my tactic, but
Well, it's more I my say to that is that you can have the experience and the benefits of the prayer without grounding the prayer in a story that is written in a book from thousands of years ago.
that's true too.
That's the benefit that people get from prayer, you can get without the story. And that's, I think, much. Go ahead.
I'm agreeing with you, and I'm going to state that spirituality does not have to have anything to do with a church or the Bible.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, completely
Yeah.
agree.
And then go ahead.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah. So it sounds like you don't believe in a creator. Is that correct? Do you believe in souls? Do you believe that we are embodied souls, that you have past lives and things like this?
Yes,
Interesting.
I lean very heavily in that direction,
Okay.
because um, again, what happens during ayahuasca? Is everything that happens in there true? Is everything that you like change, your life based off of like what you're shown in this induced meditation hallucination? Like, probably not the best idea. Um, but I have absolutely seen um, suggestions of, so trying to think of how I could tell this story without like, so this is a really deeply like moving and personal one for me that you just kind of like stumbled into. But
Wow.
I want to be candid, but I also don't want to be. I don't want to like put somebody else out there, because this is like, it's my story, but it's also like.
Oh, I think I know where you're going to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just put it this way. When I was having, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I was having, some really severe trauma in my life about some very significant life events, Aya showed me that, as a possible, either Aya showed me or my brain was trying to make sense of it. And so I was shown that the reason why there was such difficulty is because I had already done this dance with this person before of, friends, not friends, like, and the connection has happened before, to which it, again, whether there was any truth to that or not, I'll never know. Right. But during ceremony, I was being shown something to either calm me or help me understand a little bit more why things didn't make sense, that I seemingly felt and knew more than was actually happening in my physical experience right now on Earth, that we had already done these things before. Sense of deja vu, sense of perhaps, past life, and repetition of our souls crossing again. Could be value to it, could be horseshit, don't know. But I did have, again, that presented to me at one time, just as I had the, asteroid presentation at one time, but
The asteroid keynote.
right?
You got the keynote.
We can jump on asteroids after this episode and play the 1979 game. And I think, like, for me, it in the moment, it explodes my brain, and sometimes it explodes my heart with, things that like were deeply like concerning me and helping me to heal, like traumas and problems, that were going on. And like, once the dust settles from like the Aya experience, it also created, I don't know, like just things to think about and things to ponder, not, but in a loving, kinder, other way of possibly considering facts that may not make sense, and I find that actually like heartwarming. I found it heartwarming that, perhaps in my logical, concise brain on my day-to-day earthly existence, perhaps the medicine was giving me, like, give yourself a break. Here's a couple other ways to think of, like, perhaps, perhaps there are other explanations that you just you can't understand. And so I was like, it was actually very helpful.
Well, logic says that if it's possible, it is also necessary in some world.
And perhaps that's what I saw.
It is possible that in this world, I'm saying that it is. I mean, I guess what I like, one distinction to that is important to remember is that truth doesn't equate to certainty. So the fact that, you said earlier, and I know that this is not maybe how you meant it, but like, some things we don't know, but we still act, we still do things as if we knew. Like, we'd like, to put an example, like if you don't know which train you have to get on, but you have to get on a train, you get on even if you might be wrong, but you still act, right? And it's true that it can be wrong. You didn't have certainty about which train, but you still have an intuition about left or right turns when you're at the stoplight.
Mm.
And to not act, like the mental paralysis that can happen, that also creates pain. It's important to acknowledge that we do make decisions constantly. Our mind does this, and it's important also to know that we're fallible, and so it's important to check. But to kind of detach and paralyze, any brain processes and saying like I don't know, it's not how we actually work, and for example, if we don't know, one can say, I don't know if God exists, but you still act as if God exists, or you act as if God does not exist, which doesn't mean that there's no morality or anything like that. It's a completely separate question. And in your case,
Yes.
you believe in past lives. The story about the past lives that was keynoted to you under the experience helped
Mm.
you, give you a different storyline of how to deal with the traumatic moment that you were experiencing. So
Maybe.
from then on, you acted as if this was a dance between souls that has been repeated on a pattern, and that gave you a sense of calm, that there's nothing that you could have done differently because this is just a dance that perpetuates itself. And so therefore it takes away the decision of like, oh, there's nothing that I could have done. This is just the way things are, basically, and appreciate the experience of what it was rather than like trying to change it, because you
Maybe.
cannot change a pattern from a past life. So it like frees you in a way. Does that resonate?
Mostly.
Okay.
However, I'm just gonna, you know, just reconfigure the frosting just ever so
Yeah,
slightly.
yeah, yeah.
It didn't, I believe that sometimes a story can be like a parable or an analogy, but it
Mm,
doesn't have to be 100% factually accurate for me to get the lesson, right? So when you started
mm,
with, well, you now believe in past lives, I'm like, well, maybe. What I'm saying is that I was presented that, and it helped restructure my thought process about that issue that I was having about why are these things happening, right? So it could still be a story that is not true, but like it helped redirect my brain to another possibility. And when so I still stay, fluid on that, because I'm not putting my, line in the sand that, this is absolutely right, which is why I said, like, I don't know what the answer is, not for it to be like and flimsy out, but just to say, I mean, it's a fact. None of us know what is actually right. But I do agree with you that, the way that I lean on any one of these, giant questions of the universe, right? The way that I lean absolutely is affected um, by my birth, upbringing, time in church, time not in church, time with ayahuasca, like all of these things, together are a string of experiences, which then, brings me to today, to which I can say, well, this is the way I lean on it, because I
yeah. So you lean. Mhm.
stories or some lessons imparted to me.
Yeah. So you do lean to past lives more than no
Yes.
past lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely lean to that. Uh, that could absolutely be a possibility.
Oh, it's definitely a possibility, but that's you lean towards that. That's the most probable. No certainty. Like if you want to like take away the certainty or absoluteness, if you want to
I
use that
couldn't even put
language.
a percentage on it. What I'm saying is that by showing me that, it actually created some calm to me in a moment, and I have no idea if it's almost like, you know I don't want to give some ridiculous analogy, but Um, I mean, maybe.
So maybe it like, okay, so perhaps it just allowed the possibility for it not to be the other way, that there is
Right.
a. Mhm.
It gave me calm that there was a possible explanation that wasn't as harsh as what I was thinking or
I
feeling at
see.
that moment.
Yeah. So it broke the certainty of the other train of thought. It's
Yes.
kind of like what it sounds like.
Yes, but it doesn't make me say all eggs now are in past lives. Yes, like no, not necessarily.
I see. Interesting.
But it did. But to your other points, I mean, it did absolutely affect like how I thought and felt and behaved after that.
Yeah.
Yes. So therefore,
So
therefore,
you did get on the train of past lives, is what I'm saying about the trains. Like you were on the train of there is no past lives. Then you got the keynote and you're like, oh, it is possible. And now you got on the
or
other train, and then that train allowed you to behave differently.
or I
Uh-huh.
got on the train of things aren't as bad as you're making them out to be. There could be another explanation. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So no, I'm following your logic. So it's like it's either black or, and now it's before it was like black or white. And now you're like, well, it's not black or white. It's either black or not black. And I don't know what other colors there are, but it was definitely not black.
That's great. That's great. To which it gets back to one of the original points, right, of why so many people find plant medicine, plant ceremony, ayahuasca in like deeply emotional and like difficult times. There are a lot of people that are in deep turmoil and turn to Aya. Um, I mean, it's I understand why.
Mm. Yeah,
And
this distinction. Go ahead.
sorry, but every time, uh, also like even like going to ceremony, like the question has been asked like multiple times of like, are you at all suicidal? Are you at all like really having like really, self-harm thoughts? Because there are, I don't know, for some people, can be for folks that are at the end of their rope because things may seem completely black, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. To me, this distinction comes from logic, right? And that also the distinction between the fight against logic is another one that I see in the plant community, for example. I dated a shaman who gives medicine to A-listers, and I was like enamored with her because I thought she knew a lot. But then when it became to discuss very specifics, like the logic she had was not working for me, and we had a lot of fights about this. But one distinction that is important, I think, is like we do know things, and we do know things for certain, and there are things that are infallible in our knowledge, and it's important also to recognize that. So, for example, all the coins that exist, the number of coins that are in your house, the number of coins that are in my apartment, the number of coins that are in the universe, that number will be either even or odd. Do you agree with this? There's no way that it can be either something else, right? It's either just the number of coins, right? It will be either even or odd.
You shake the magic 8 ball. Since the answer is unclear.
Ah, why? But why would it be unclear? It's only it's. Oh, okay,
Okay,
okay, okay.
of course you crafted a again. This is why I got off on logic in college because you could create ironclad arguments.
Well,
That's
the point,
that's an ironclad argument.
right? It's just you cannot refute it. But the
Yeah.
difference is like, so in the question of there is certainty in that there cannot be there's only those two answers,
Yes.
but there is no certainty as to which answer it is. So you
Yeah.
can say that the coins are even, the number of coins in the universe is even, and I can say the number of coins in the universe is odd, and we don't have, neither of us has certainty. So now we can apply this to every question. For example, there is a God, there is no a God, but we know that there is one question will be right. One question will be absolutely right. So if you say that there is God and I say that there is no God, one of us will be right and one of us will be wrong. It cannot be that that both of us are right and both of us are wrong. You see?
No, of course. Which is why you use the word certainty and I use the word, more like lean. Like which way am I leaning more towards? Which answer am I more certain?
Well. So the distinction is important because the distinction is between truth and certainty. So one of our answers will be true, which
Right.
you say you lean more towards one or the other. But that's the word here is truth, and people have a fear of using the word truth or absolute truth because they think that it implies certainty. But it doesn't imply certainty. It implies that you think that this is true, that this proposition that there is a God or that there is no God, one of those two propositions is true, will be true. It's not impossible that it is not true, but we don't know for certainty which one. The problem is that people believe things with certainty. Go ahead.
No, correct. I'm like, right. I mean, that's why I spoke in the way that I did.
Yeah, no, it's you didn't say anything
I
incorrectly.
don't know which is true, but yes, continue.
No, you don't know which is certain.
How would I know which is true?
We don't know. Well, here's so truth. So, do you believe that knowledge is possible?
Can you elaborate on that?
Do you believe, for example, there's the two camps? There is the camp of Heraclitus, the camp that says that everything changes and knowledge also changes, and therefore knowledge is impossible, and things are always changing. And there's the camp of Parmenides, who says the universe is static, everything is knowable, or rather, everything is out there. The ideas are static and immortal, and not immortal, but immovable and eternal, and we can get to know them if we use our reason or whatever, but that there is one absolute truth about the universe, whether we can know it or not. So he says that knowledge is possible using our rationality, even though, and again, knowledge is knowing something. Knowledge means that you have evidence for what you believe to be true, and I believe the knowledge is possible. And so I think that God does not exist. And I think it's true that God does not exist, even though I don't have certainty about it, because there is no evidence to the opposite claim. The evidence that is proposed for the opposite claim, that God does not exist, is insufficient for me to believe that is bad evidence. Whereas the evidence that I have to believe that God does not exist is enough for me to say with confidence that God does not exist, and that is absolutely true, and that I know that this is true, even though I'm open to change my mind if evidence comes.
So I would say to that bold statement, I agree with you. However, um, I agree with you. However, I don't find it as important to state like which side my claim is. I
Mm.
just don't I don't think it's that important for me to state that this is what I believe and therefore this, is what I feel is right, especially on these, giant, you know,
Because there are giant questions, I think that they are important, and I think that if it changes your outlook on life.
I think the debate is important. Again, I don't feel the need to speak in absolutes at times, you know.
Yeah. We speak in absolutes.
Will I kill you if you harm my child? Yeah, I will. That's pretty absolute. But I'm just saying, like on these other ones, like I'm like I'm happy to participate, but I don't have to.
You're not confident enough about what you believe in this about your beliefs in this terrain to make bold, strong, or confident claims about them. Basically,
Yeah, yeah, I'm more. Who wrote the bumper sticker? I'm much more about sharing my experience than sharing my opinion.
oh yeah, no, but the thing is, to me, sharing so going back to how we started the episode actually is that to me, experiencing your opinions is part of the experience. So far as so long as like I don't like, it's not about like putting other people down, but more
Right.
like questioning, like because perhaps you have knowledge that I don't have, and so if it
I mean,
to me it's
clearly.
very important, huh?
I mean, clearly.
Clearly, obviously, you have knowledge that I don't have. But like
and,
for
and,
me,
and vice versa. We're two humans that came together after, you know, 85% of our lives have already been lived before we met. There's a
yeah.
ton of things I have not learned from you yet.
Well, but just in this specific camp, right? In this, God exists, God does not exist.
Yeah.
Which I know that you're not making any confident claims on either or, but like in this camp, one of us will be right, one of us will be wrong. Assuming that you take the position that God exists, and I assume, and as you know, just for the sake of argument,
Wouldn't do that, but
one
go
of us will know. Yeah, exactly. One of us knows, and one of us doesn't know.
ahead. I'll just show my hand.
Well, it seems like well, I try to question you to get a sense of what the belief system is that you operate under,
Yeah.
and it seems like it's more of a non-dogmatic position, meaning like you believe in past lives now, but and that there's patterns, and like that you've been dancing around with different souls in past lives, and now you're reuniting, and this is kind of the purpose. But you don't believe this dogmatically, meaning like you do believe this absolutely, even though you don't like to use that word, but you do believe it. You do believe this is true, but you don't believe it in a dogmatic way, which is like, that you're not open for anything else to be true. So this is what I gather so far from your belief system.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I feel that there's about an 87% certainty of what you just said to be accurate.
Certainty is only 100%. So when you talk about, I mean, I'm being super stickler, but
It
it
can't be,
matters.
but of course it's not because I just said it's not. So
No,
therefore,
my point is that the word is probability, right? So there's probabilities and there is certainty. So it is certain that the coins will be either even or odd.
well, we're just going to get back to the next bumper sticker, which is I said it, therefore I am. So,
Wow.
yeah. You like
I
that one?
mean, I love talking about, we're like scratching the surface on the logics. And by the way, I gave you the book on metaphysics. So the introduction to
I,
metaphysics.
and I tell you this too. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna make an even more controversial statement than I made, about
Okay.
God. But I miss reading, and
Mm,
honestly, like all of this other stuff I do, in my day. Um, uh, Gosh, I really do want to be spending more time, rereading the books. I still have all of you've been in my home
yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
You've seen my book collection. I still have all of my books from college, especially, well, not all, but I kept all of the books from, art, architecture, philosophy, psychology, every single one of them. But am I ever opening them and reading them again? No, I really want to make some more time to do, some of that. That actually might be an interesting exercise for a future episode, is for us to I don't know, like live narrate and just pick out some points of a book in front of us and just like,
Yeah. I
oh,
mean, I loved, this is what I did.
because then both things would happen at once, right?
Yeah.
It would get me back in some of these books that absolutely were formative in my early years. Get back into, and I'm making some connections and see what you think about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do that in Clubhouse. That's what I love to do. I loved learning with people. I am now teaching philosophy of language to a friend of mine who wanted to get into this, and I'm rereading the textbook, and I'm looking at the primary sources, and it's all about logic and the birth of analytic philosophy, and it's mesmerizing. And that's why I can say all these things really quickly now. Well, besides the fact that I'm adapting Timothy Williamson's book, which is all about logic. The example of the coins and the black or not black is also in Williamson's text, which I gave you, I think, also. No, or did I not give you the tetralogue? I don't remember if I maybe gifted to you that or not. If not, next time I'm in Costa Rica, I'll bring you a copy.
Okay. Or next time I'm in America.
Oh yeah, you're coming in a couple of weeks. Or you're coming next week. Wait, you're coming next week, right? I have it written down somewhere.
Well, between us, I'll send you the data when I'm coming. It's not going to make any here or there based on
Okay.
the video, but
Yeah.
very soon. I will be there very soon, my friend.
Very cool.
Well, this is quite eye-opening.
Yeah.
And as always, I love how just to go back to the 40-minute coffee warm-up, when we were talking about things that we're absolutely not going to get in the episode. And I said to you, you said, well, what are we going to talk about then? And I gave you the line of how I was going to start the episode. And you literally said, like, oh, I don't know that. Like, that's not going to, and I'm like, watch. And here we are 80 minutes later.
Yeah, this is interesting. Oh, I didn't even check. I haven't even looked at the time. I didn't realize how long we've been talking. That is great. That's a good sign.
It's a great sign, and that's why I say, like, let's just get into it, because the pinball machine is always ready to go between the two of us. So
very cool.
Good times, my friend. I appreciate your insights as always. I will see you soon in person. I will see you soon here on the channel. Thanks all for watching.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying this so much. So thank you for making this happen.
Absolutely. Take care.